Welcome back to the Jungle Wildlings. It's your least weird autistic kitty Spala. And before we get into the meat of the video, I do very quickly want to direct everyone's attention to the link in my description. Not many links, I'll be honest. But my friend in the States is facing a lot of hardship right now. So she set up a GoFundMe a couple months ago. And to this day, only about $60 have been donated. And she needs over $3,000. Like, she's really struggling, and she was recently laid off due to the recession in America. I live in South Africa. I do pay volunteer work, so I'm fine, but I unfortunately myself am unable to help her. But if anyone could even send her like $10, that would be so much help. One of my exes is a mutual friend between her and I, and he's been posting about it on TikTok, but nobody's donated. They've only liked the videos, or they've commented boost. That's not helping. That's performative, if anything. Over 1,000 people have seen his videos. If each person had donated $1, she would have easily reached her goal by now. If they had donated 10, she would have gone over her goal. And I do realize that yes, America is in a recession. That's why she lost her job in the first place. But she is autistic like me. She's also physically disabled like I am. And the issue with her back is going to require surgery sometime in her future. I do sincerely hope it's in the further future, but she might end up in a wheelchair, and she can't afford a wheelchair, especially now that she doesn't have a job. She told me she's been applying for new jobs, but nobody's gone back to her yet. So if anybody could please help my friend, I'd sincerely appreciate that. Okay, now to what this video is about, and yeah, I do got some loose skin on my arms. I'm sorry, I have lupus, I'm losing weight, and when you lose weight naturally, that tends to create some of this loose stuff. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be bulking up sooner or later, so hopefully it's not as loose. But hi. So I was recently diagnosed with BPD, or borderline personality disorder. It's also called emotional instability disorder. I don't quite like that. Like, borderline personality, they're both very descriptive of what it does to my brain, but I feel like borderline personality disorder seems to be taken a bit more seriously, even though it's for some reason called the scarier name. I just think saying emotional instability makes it sound like I just throw tantrums, when that's not what the disorder causes. So it is a trauma-induced disorder, which means that the part of my brain that can process and handle my emotions is damaged. There are several different ways it can develop, but they are traumatic. For example, everybody here should know by now, if you're a long-time viewer, that my childhood was significantly less than pleasant, not present. Let's pretend I am as fluent in English as I like to make believe I am, shall we? But, and then I had the altercation in January of 2020, where someone was allowed into my home and they tried to take advantage of me. So I have a pretty dark record of personal experiences, let's say that. And that can cause some not so happy things to happen in your brain. For example, people can develop dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder, where your brain fragments it into different parts to help handle everything that's going on. The body will have the host, who has the legal name, and then alters. The alters can be like a protector. They can be like they can be a fictive, which means that it's developed after a fictional character. That's somebody who the host relates to, I believe. I am educating myself on it. I am also educating myself on NPD and ASPD, or antisocial personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. They're both cluster B personality disorders, just like my borderline is. And I've made a discovery that I would not have made if I had not joined TikTok. And that is, a lot of people with borderline personality disorder are in the cosplay community. Now, that's not me trying to say that everyone with borderline personality will cosplay, or that everyone who cosplays has borderline. I'm just noticing a lot of overlap. I've also met several people that also have both borderline personality disorder and autism. I've also made some friends who only have borderline personality disorder, as well as a few that only have autism. And there's another interesting observation I've made. For example, I hallucinate that there's a Wendigo up in my attic where I keep my books. So every time I want to go up and get a manga, I'm just like, And it's interesting. It really is. Because my friends who solely have borderline or solely have autism, they don't hallucinate Wendigos. But my friends who have both conditions like I do see Wendigos. And then they also said that the Wendigo has straight up told them their names. Like, okay, so I'm not the only one. Because Fluffy McGee up there literally told me, hi, my name's Arnold. But he didn't say it so politely. He was growling at me and like... And it's not even like the cool horror cinema version of a Wendigo where he's got a deer head and antlers. It's the folklore accurate version, so he's a scrawny, lanky, tall, just grotesque thing, just snarling away. And he scares me. He really does. Terrifying. And then in my basement, when I go to do my wash, there is a banshee. And I do think that part of it reflects my autism, because attic has Arnold and basement has banshee. The banshee has yet to tell me her name, and I truly hope she never does, because she terrifies me. She's even scarier than the Wendigo, believe it or not. And I'm not Irish. I am not indigenous. So I don't know why those two cultures have cropped up in my psyche, but apparently. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that I'm an unaligned pagan, so I do worship deities from multiple cultures. For example, I worship Nyx, who is the Greek Titaness of night. She is my patron deity. And then I like Venus from Roman. She's the equivalent to Aphrodite. And then Izanami, who I've named myself after for my cosplay name. She's Shinto. My speech impediments. I know how to say it. Like, I can say it properly in my brain, but for some reason this thing doesn't know what it's doing. Like, I'm multilingual. I learned multiple languages so I could communicate, and I can't communicate because this thing doesn't know what it's doing. You're okay, baby. My therapy cat is looking at me like I have 25 heads, and I might have 25 heads. But I just found that to be an interesting thing, that for some reason the conditions do actually interact in my brain. Autism, my brain is actually built differently. The part of my brain that can handle my emotions is twice as small as it is in an autistic or a non-autistic person. And the part of my brain that can make and store memories is twice as large. But now I also have lupus, which can cause short-term amnesia and brain fog. And I've actually met some of my friends who have BPD and autism that also have lupus. So it is very nice to have some people that understand me. And again, I only met these people because I have a TikTok now. And it's nice because, like I said in my comeback video, the doctor's not really keen on actually educating you on what they're diagnosing you with. They just slap a label and you say, here you go, go home. Which I do think we need to work on, and that happens in every country. Particularly if you're AFAB, they are reluctant to give you a diagnosis of autism when you're AFAB, or give you the BPD diagnosis even. A lot of people with BPD or autism are being incorrectly diagnosed as having bipolar disorder. And you can have bipolar and BPD at the same time. You can have bipolar and autism at the same time. But bipolar is a mood disorder and BPD is a personality disorder. They're a little bit different. And I actually just saw a TikTok video about someone who was diagnosed with NPD discussing the similarities with autism. I'm like, okay, well, I know for dang sure I don't have NPD, but it is possible to have multiple cluster B personality disorders, I have learned. And these are things I'm learning from my communities because the doctor, again, just said, you got this, you got this, here you go. I do think we need to work on that. That might just be a patient-to-doctor relationship issue, but I've seen it happening mostly in, again, AFAB people. I'm not saying that AMAB people don't also have the struggle. Like, I know some things aren't taken seriously if you're biologically male. It's very annoying that health professionals seem to be biased towards one sex or the other. And considering that there are intersex people who are having surgery forced upon them as infants, people are making us fit into their boxes one way or another, if that's withholding information, if that's forcing surgery, if that's just being reluctant to diagnose or to purposely give a misdiagnosis. And I am aware that some doctors, some medical practitioners will purposely misdiagnose someone so they do receive treatment from someone in the again, I know what the word is, but my mouth doesn't want to do it. This is not the right word, but it's the one I can pronounce. The psychiatry field. The brain people will take you seriously. They did an experiment one time. Excuse me. They've done an experiment with both autistics and with people who have BPD, and they were both extremely telling. They set up a clinic with a bunch of psychiatrists. Half of the patients had BPD, and the other half didn't. In one test, they told the psychologist seeing them, and the people with BPD received worse treatment from the get-go. In the second treatment with a different set of psychologists, they were set in the clinic blindly. They didn't know that half of them had BPD. And they watched those patients gradually receive less and less treatment. The people with BPD were being more and heavily sedated than their non-BPD counterparts. Because nobody wants to take it seriously. They were being restricted, like physically tied to their beds with pills forced into their mouths instead of being treated. And then in the test for autistics, they had diagnosed autistics and a group of allistics. the autistics or the non-autistics were put in their own group at first, and then they were intermingled with the autistics. This test showed that the autistics, the non-autistics, could subconsciously tell there was something different with the autistics. And they ranked their interactions better was the people who had the same neurotype as opposed to the opposing neurotype. And when you have both, and you look at this, and you just look at all these studies being done, you do kind of feel hopeless. Because not only do medical personnel actively hate you, but it feels like the general public does as well. And more people are being diagnosed with things because we are doing more research. Because people aren't taking no for an answer. They are getting their diagnoses one way or another. And some people can't afford a diagnosis, so they self-diagnose. And that is just as valid. And when the world is just fucked up the way it is, sometimes that's the only way you do get your diagnosis. And that's not me advocating to go online and look up all your symptoms. Don't do that. But if someone says something that resonates with you, do look into it. And I'm not saying, oh, that means you have ABC 1, 2, 3 disorder. I'm just saying that you might not have ABC, but you might have DEF. We're going to pretend. I know that's for certain alphabetical order. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. D, E, A, B, C, D, E, F. That was right. And no, I don't feel bad about having to sing my ABCs to know that, because I know people who have to get tattooed left and right, okay? Which will also be me one day. But it's interesting, it's scary, and it's sad. But again, I would not have known half of this stuff without having made a TikTok. And now the app is facing a total ban in America. And I don't have a significant amount of followers in America, but I do know that my videos do help people in the States. So if you do follow me on TikTok, I hope you find me here. You know, I very much just might quit TikTok if they banned it in the States, because let's be honest, I only have it for one person. And I have his email saved in my phone. Yeah. Again, borderline personality disorder. There's something called a favorite person, and he's mine. But again, just I would not have made so many discoveries about myself if not for TikTok. So I do honestly hope that it is allowed to stay in, again, the States. My friend who's struggling, she said she might make a TikTok as well at this point. Hopefully she can advocate for herself, because again, my ex, her mutual friend, is not having any luck. Liking the videos does not help. Commenting boost does not help. She doesn't need performative actions. She needs action. She's struggling, and I don't want to see her die. I'm sorry, this entire video was a bit heavier than what I normally post. I try to be upbeat, I try to let people know, while being humorous, that they still matter. But it really kind of seems like I don't, and like my friend doesn't. And that just makes me very sad and very angry. I don't know. No. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate each of your unique existences. I hope you have a wonderful day, night, whichever time zone in which you reside. Remember, we're all mad here, and that's A-okay. And if you're able, please help my friend. Please. Hopefully next video can be more upbeat. I'm thinking a food video because I haven't done that in a while. All right. Love you.